All right, lead us off, bud.
Different ways to invest in gold.
Different ways to invest.
Physical commodities, ETFs, and mining stocks.
All right, that's what we're talking about today. Coming up, guys. Talk to me, Andrew. What is this idea
we always talk on our
that
show about owning physical metal?
Yeah.
You know, for whatever reasons, shit hitting a fan. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. But there are other ways to invest in metal. ETFs in particular. A lot of people are familiar with GLD and SLV, which I own personally.
Do you?
You know, and we were discussing before. A lot of people buy that stuff because they don't want to have the physical on them. Right. They think it's a security risk.
Right.
They don't want to,
Is that why you invest in it? Or
what made you? You know what? I was just putting, every once in a while,
sprinkle money around to different spots.
My portfolio is just like I have it in my IRA, and it's just like I have a little bit of everything. Stocks. I haven't done miners yet. I don't know enough about the mining industry, but I do have some money in GLD and SLV.
I mean, I have like a whole section on my YouTube channel.
Don't you do interviews with mining guys and stuff? Yeah.
Right.
None of them ever say, "Hey, Stormy, man."
They don't tell, no, because essentially I and other YouTube content creators, we're paid a fee to allow the guests to come on and talk about their company, but they're never like, oh, why don't you invest in the company? That's not what they're there for.
You never met any of these guys and we're like, man, you know what? He seems like a smart guy, got a good head on his shoulders.
A few of them. Some of them I've had a couple times on the channel, multiple times. And I invested in a few, but then I liquidated all my positions like a couple years ago when I was buying my truck because I wanted to pool together as much money for a down payment.
I don't know much about it, but they do move with the metals market.
Yeah, for the most part.
But there's like
the thing is,
junior miners, there's explorers.
That's the junior miners essentially were the majority of these companies. One time I had Keith Newmeyer on the channel. He arguably is like one of the biggest names in the industry. But a lot of the mining companies too, like the junior miners, it seems like for some of them, not all of them, it's a bit of a crapshoot. Like because some of them are not necessarily producing as much, or you could see like they're like hopeful, like that these these new
I think a lot of
geological
it's just
studies
like wishful
are
thinking. So when
maybe for a couple
when we
of them,
explore this area, we're gonna mine 50,000 tons of gold.
Maybe for some of them. I mean, it's a lot more in depth than that because they have geological surveyors and
samples of the land and stuff.
Like actually a friend of mine who's up in Canada, Greg, if you're watching. He probably isn't because he's Canadian and he probably doesn't get internet up there, but he actually was involved with doing that type of work for uranium companies and stuff like that. So I've invested in the past. Actually, lately though, I've been more so putting money into semiconductor companies like NVIDIA and there's some others too that I've been putting my money into.
I don't know enough about the mining, the miners, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's best that, because I would interview them. I was able to pick their brains and I learned a lot about their companies, but I would only invest in a couple of them.
The big ones?
Yeah, no, not necessarily, because again, they were like junior miners, so they're not necessarily like big, but there's definitely a time where you could do very well with the mining companies. And I see a couple guys posting what they're doing on Instagram with some of their mining companies. And listen, a lot of people invest in them. It takes one major discovery for a company to hit big and to
get bought out.
And that's the other thing. A lot of these companies essentially also are positioning themselves to be purchased. Yeah. Exactly right.
But the difference obviously with these investments, owning the mining stocks and ETFs, you have no physical metal.
Right, and
so,
that's
God forbid. We always talk about it, EMP, whatever that is. That we're not going to have electricity.
Right.
You have your money invested in that, and that happens, you're just beat. There's nothing you can do.
And so that's the thing with the stacking niche, right?
Right.
They always say if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Right.
I don't believe that. Like, I own stock although they say like you don't really
You
have
don't
the
have a
certificate.
majority of your
and-
money. You do own physical metal.
but I have. But what I'm saying is like I own shares in different companies. I'm not actually holding on to the company.
right.
Like but I understand what they're saying and I've had a couple experiences where, with cryptocurrency, for example, like with Bitcoin, where I was trying to transfer my money or my Bitcoin from my cold wallet to Coinbase, which is the exchange that I would buy and sell. And it took like 12 hours in order for it to.
But that stuff's supposed to be instant.
It's not instant. It takes time. It takes.
Oh, wow.
So, especially this one wallet, and this is the first time that something like that ever worked in my favor because I wanted to sell my Bitcoin at this time. I was like, oh my God, I want to sell it. I bought it at around 19,000 and I was selling it around 55,000. So it's like, I want to sell it now. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching the number drop. The price of Bitcoin is dropping. And I'm like, where the heck is my Bitcoin? Why isn't it in the account?
Right.
This was at 6 a.m. that I had initiated this transaction. It wasn't until 6 p.m. later that night when the Bitcoin finally landed into
Was that the original price?
It was above.
Yeah.
So it was the first time that it ever worked out in my favor because if I sold it when I wanted to, I would have made less.
Oh, well.
So that never works like that,
Right.
right? This time it actually worked in my favor.
Dumb luck.
It was dumb luck on that in that instance. It was a difference of like a few $1,000s. But then also recently, something like that again happened. Similar. Do you remember what happened with E-Trade with Robinhood and everything?
Yeah,
or E-Trade with Robinhood and GameStop, right? People wanted to sell out of the GameStop stocks and they couldn't because Robinhood like halted trading. And so all these people were essentially locked out of being able to sell their GameStop stocks. So recently, Coinbase had a similar scenario where Bitcoin was dropping, or was it Bitcoin was rising? Either way, something significant was happening. And all of a sudden there was like this outage where it said like, don't worry, your Bitcoin is safe.
Yeah.
We're working on the problem right now. So you go online, you search, and it's like all the Reddit boards, everything. It's like Coinbase has got like some sort of outage right now, and you can't access your Bitcoin because it's sitting on their platform.
Right.
So that's the whole point of like if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So with the situation with like Bitcoin and cold wallets, I use a thing called Ledger. And essentially you're taking your Bitcoin off of the exchange. So in this case, Coinbase, right? You're taking it and you're putting it into, it almost looks like a thumb drive. And it's the cold storage and it's sitting in that thumb drive locked. It's on the blockchain. It's there. You have it. In order to access it, you need to know your password and everything like that. But in that situation, like now if Coinbase went down or there was some major outage or whatever the case may be, you still have it in your ledger. So the whole, sorry guys, we lost. Well, the whole point is like if you don't hold it, you don't own it. That's why the people don't necessarily believe in ETFs.
But another thing about ETFs, it takes out the guesswork of the premiums.
Takes out the guesswork.
It's like you see it at that price, you can buy it. If they're bidding the ask, you buy it and sell it at that price.
Yes.
There's no.
That's just straight up
I
buying
seen
and selling.
a couple people in the comments saying that it pretty much tracks spot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
right. And then also you and I were talking about the risk involved. If you've got hundreds of ounces of gold, there are some people that I know that have a substantial holding.
Sure.
You have a security risk.
Yeah, you never know when somebody's watching you. Somebody's gonna break into your house.
And and then that brings into vaulting.
And metals are weird. It's like cash.
Yeah.
Once someone takes it from you, you're not getting it back.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's
right.
It's not gonna it's gone.
Yep. Yep. So
if you have your money in ETFs, no one's, unless they hack into your account, it's pretty safe.
Yes. And same with the mining stocks, but that's just different. At that point, you're investing in companies and not necessarily the gold.
Actual metal.
You're investing
Supposedly
in the company.
these ETFs are backed by a certain amount of gold, but I have a hard time believing some of that too.
Interesting that you bring that up is that there were some cryptocurrencies that were popping up
They
and
went back like gold.
or tokens.
Yeah, I just seen one went crazy over the weekend.
I don't
seen a lot
know.
of people posting about it.
So, some of these companies reached out to me to do. I had one actually a while ago. I forget how many years ago
I'd
it
get
was. 2
behind
years
that if
ago.
it was actually backed by gold. You know, the
But
problem is
it's like verifying it, like
the problem is even the ETFs. So I was reading an article not that long ago about GLD,
Yeah.
right? And they're supposed to have, I believe, 10% of it backed by physical gold.
Right.
And there was such a big demand in like a couple days period. They would have needed 1 million or whatever the number is, a number of ounces
Right.
to back up the 10%. And they were like, dude, they don't even mine that much gold in a year.
right. So
You know what
how?
I mean?
So what
how-
ends up happening in that situation? Do you know what I mean?
It's the same thing with
If
like
they're-
futures contracts. I keep reading that for every 1 ounce of gold, there's 300 contracts
Right.
written. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I would guess it would all fall apart.
That's
You know what
the
I mean?
thing.
It's-
Like, and then you're screwed
Yeah.
essentially because that ETF that you were trading
But they're
in.
all what if scenarios. You know what I mean? Scenarios that we might not see in our lifetime.
True.
You know,
True.
so I would definitely recommend owning the physical
Yeah.
or a good portion of it. Like
That's
I said, I own
that's because
ETFs.
you're a dealer.
Yeah, I just want you to buy off my website. No, but I do own ETFs too. I'm probably going to get into mining a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to watch some of your videos, some of these guys.
Yeah, some of them are better than others. Some are more entertaining to watch also than other ones. But I have a whole series. I've had so many different interviews with multiple companies. So he's got some homework to do.
That's it.
But let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
do
I'd like
you?
to know about your investments.
Yeah, are you
guys-
ETFs? Are you into the miners? Are you just physical metals? Let us know in the
Yeah,
comments.
definitely.
And we'll see you on the next one on next Sunday.
Have a good weekend.
Later, guys.